like animal farm. Justice mean inequity. So who go say the truth? Who go say the truth? Christian can say silence. Islamic leaders silence. Kings and queens silence. Traditional leaders silence. So who go say the truth? We are the workers who compose the call. Now by area, why no better? We are the workers who compose the call. One guy's area, why no better? Who go say the truth? Who go say the truth? Oh, you need it now, see what's I see so. Now your friend on a nine come at them. Only papi obeka nice and beer. So I want one over to a two. Everybody was afraid. And until I learned to my quantity again nine. Once my board dumping one and I cheat. But who go tell the truth? Nanai or say me. Nanso bien person beka wasam because everybody is afraid. Anya safwe muayini. Akuku drofo nyina dalima. And who go say the truth? Obiadra konson so to grow your mansa to me be a cacobrafo. Efo anyina ye. Efo when you know yet. Na so kutrata down so be dia back or why no keke. I fene for be man mo pia for efo no cross on my mo. Anya safwe mo ayini. Akuku drofo nyina dalima. And who go say the truth? Abaya di bote chino. Yedi bi bebo nyande bi. Kachi sa udi oma opipi numa. Udi oma never shine na frafonsa. But who go tell the truth? TUC silence. Even journalists silence. So then who go say the truth? Right is right. Wrong is wrong, no matter how you justify. You say you wanna get rid of corruption. Someone want to help you, now the person become your target. Jobless, no they mean senseless. Poverty, no they mean useless. One day, them go resist.
This Chiniaman Yokon FFA yo. Ya Papa John Dramani Mahama, and your mommy Professor Nana Jane Opoku Ajiman. And who sent no Najibebia? The Sainty, the French chapter women wing, in collaboration with the French chapter executives, present the role of the diaspora in building the Ghana we want. Date 22nd June 2024. Venue 18 Rue Laveneve 93800. Épinay-sur-Seine, France, Paris. Guest speakers: Honorable Johnson Esiedun Ketia, the National Chairman. Honorable Fifi Fiavikote, General Secretary. Lawyer Barbara Asamoah, Deputy General Secretary. Honorable Alex Segbefia, and the Deputy Dr. Carl K.M. Ahin, International Relations Directors. Afe, Ahin Fomudo Onyonya Betajuba DHini. Nana Ansa Sasaraku the Third, Chief of the Ghana Community, Paris, France. Nana Donko Bejina, Ghana House of Chiefs, Paris. Nana Aponsa, Nana Num Ekukudam, Paris. Honorable Asa Mensa, GCCP President, Paris, France. Afenso, Omwa Jumadi Esiomu Nansuni, Freeman Akurugu, Chairman, NDC France Chapter. Esanse Jumadi Efa Mounty, Yatuyan Safre, Yaya Mami, Dr. Miss Hannah Louisa Bisil, Kote, NDC National Women Organizer. Afe Yaya Mami, Najat Azu, France Chapter Women Organizer. On the Jumadi Esinasu de Dende. For enquiries, call these numbers 075 030 2910 or 076 709 3265. You can also call 075 182 0992 or 069 55 85 778.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to yet another exciting show of MyView Show live on TodayGhanaNews TV, where every Monday evening we do well to bring you the most topical socio-political discussion as is relevant to Ghana, sometimes to Africa, and sometimes globally. And consistent to the theme for this year, which we said was going to be election-centered because of the numerous elections that are happening in Africa, and especially because of the election in Ghana, that most of our programs this year are going to be centered on politics. Last week, we took a little detour and we talked about some social issues. And to this regard, we would like to say a very big thank you to all our viewers and listeners who tuned in and who expressed their willingness to support the NGO that we hosted. And we implored upon you to send your donations and your support to them so that they can also in turn help the many people that they help daily. We would like to say that this is not the end of it. The show might have ended last week, but your support and your help is still very much needed. And we would like to encourage you to still continue to send in as much support as possible. But this week, we have come back to our original theme for the year, which is politics, and politics in Ghana. If our listeners can recall, every election year or every election cycle, there is always a topical issue that tends to dominate the political discussions of that particular election. The past two elections mostly have been dominated by matters of education. These elections, we are told that it is going to be economy-centered, and that most of the discussions leading up to this election are going to be matters that have to do with the elections. To this effect, the political parties, opposition, those in opposition, and those ruling, have since embarked upon rolling out some or distributing sharing their policies concerning the economy. And on this show, we have discussed some of them to some length. One of those things that we have discussed is the 24-hour economy of the main opposition party in Ghana. We have discussed it with various people, with the proponents of the policy itself. We even have discussed it with religious leaders to see its impact and effect. and what they thought about it. Interestingly, in all of this discussion, what we have not done have been to actually talk about it, even though it is mainly on the economy, talk about it with an economist, with a technocrat. And today, it seems everything have been leading up to this day. And so today, like they say, we've reached a crescendo where we have decided to bring the discussion home and to have an economist. Like we say on this show, we are not capable of probably answering all the various questions that we ask. But what we can do is to bring you people who are knowledgeable and expert in those areas so that they can explain those to them, to our listeners. And that is what we seek to do in this election year. We say that our mission is to give people as much information as possible so that come December 7th, when they enter the booth, they go there and vote based on information that is available to them and not based on trivialities. And so, to this, for all of what I've been saying, this evening, we are happy to be joined by Mr. Eugene Bawele. Just a short profile of Mr. Bawele before we go. Mr. Bawele is an economist. He has extensive work working in banking and finance. He also has experience working in sustainable finance and relationship management and supporting the growth of SMEs, small and medium-scale enterprises in Africa. Mr. Bawele works as the head of SME banking at Omni Basic Bank in Ghana. He also works as a lecturer at Academic City College, where he teaches economics and sustainable finance. Prior to this, Mr. Bawele had consulted for the World Bank Group in Ghana, and he's also worked with some companies in Australia, and also he's worked with the Zenith Bank as well. But currently, Mr. Bawele is also pursuing a PhD at the University of Cape Town. Mr. Bawele, welcome to my view show on Today Ghana News TV.
Thank you so much for having me. For the opportunity, I don't take it lightly at all, and I want to say good evening to all who are watching or view this program.
Yeah, and saying a good evening, we would like to say a very good evening to our listeners on Sakina Information Center in Tatali in Northern Ghana. We would like to say good evening to our listeners on High FM 93.7 in Achuhimai in the Eastern region. Also, we would like to say a good evening to our listeners on the King's Radio in Accra, and to all our viewers and listeners who are tuned into us on all social media platforms, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, on LinkedIn, and on whichever platform that you are watching us from. We say a very good evening to you and welcome to today's show. Mr. Bawele, before we proceed, it would be good for us to lay some ground rules.
Right.
By ground rules, I would like to caution you that please speak English to us. Don't speak economics to us because we may not understand. So make your explanations as basic and as lay as possible so that the layman listening to you goes away with as much information as possible.
We will try. We will try. Don't forget that our profession is teaching. So we have been teaching for some time now. So we'll try. We'll try.
Wonderful. So so to our viewers, those on Jaframa TV and all the others, those in the OT region, and I think Adelema Community Center, thank you to you two for tuning in. But before we delve into the topic for today, which is to try to assess the 24-hour economic policy of the major political party, we always say on this show that we care about our guests. So how are you doing? I
think that is in the kind of economy that we find ourselves in here in Ghana. It's okay to say we are trying well. We are trying. It's okay to say we are trying. I mean,
well,
I think
at
it's
least
not been easy for almost everyone. I mean, to say the least. But generally, once there's life, there's hope. Yeah, but we are doing well. I mean, health
that's
wise,
a
we are
good
doing well.
that's a good starting point. Normally, I say I get scared when Ghanaians answer that question by saying we are managing. Then you don't know what they really mean by we are managing. But at least you have broken it down, and we are grateful to you for that.
Yeah.
So let's get straight to the point and deal with the matters at hand. So we say our topic for today is try to assess the 24-hour economy of the NDC party. But before we actually even get to dealing with it, we would like to know do you have some knowledge about this policy? You are in this space. Are you aware about this policy? What do you know about the policy?
Yes. So thank you so much, Albert. I think that you were right in your introductory remarks. Probably the most popular policies so far in terms of the 2024 elections, if you would do that ranking by the number of times this has probably been discussed on radio or at political rallies, or if you like, you would probably not be wrong if you say that the most popular economic policy from any of the political parties that is seeking the mandate of the people in the upcoming elections is probably the 24-hour economy. I am yet to see any other policy that has probably garnered the kind of airwaves that the 24-hour economy has garnered. And probably so because it speaks to the very nature of our economy. It probably speaks to the very nature of the current economic problems that we have. And so it is not surprising that from all walks of life, whether it is the TUC, whether it is GUTA, whether it is any of the trade unions groups, they have all embraced this policy. Even people of different political divides have come to embrace the 24-hour economy as a good policy. Maybe what is outstanding when we get into the details will be the workability of the policy and the impact that it is supposed to, lay bare on the current economy that we have. But generally, if you look at why are we here in terms of this policy and why is it that people think that it probably is one of the most important policies. You look at how the economy has run in the last couple of years. If you take very basic economic indicator, last year, 2023, our economy grew by 2.9% as compared to a 3.8% in 2022. If you take other indicators like inflation, the month of April, for example, recorded an inflation of 25%. About a year or so ago, this figure hovered around 54%, probably the highest in the last 40 years, and graciously has been trending down ever since, until it started picking up again. But generally, this is still a very high figure if you compare this to, say, the 2016 figure of 15%. You take the exchange rate, for example, as we speak today, the dollar is selling over 14.95. In some cases, you get it above 15 to cedis to a dollar. You take the interest rates, they have been trending upwards. I mean, interest rates that consumers, that businesses pay, at the banks for taking loans to run their businesses, for example. Currently, even quite recently, the Bank of Ghana said this hovered between 30% and 47%. So if you put all these developments in the last couple of years together, our economy has run to such a stage that at the point we did not have the option, of course, but to fall back on the IMF. And you all know the problems that this has brought us in terms of the debt restructuring, how people have suffered haircuts to their investments and all that. So all these factors have culminated into an economy that it does not matter whoever is winning the 2024 elections, but definitely would face an uphill task in terms of turning things around. So you look at the fact that this is what whoever wins the election is coming to inherit, then there's an uphill task. And because this is not the the normal economy that you would like to have, it means that such circumstances will call for, ideas outside the box. It will mean that such circumstances will call for some kind of policies that would seek to address the problem and do so effectively. And for me, I think that is where the 24-hour economy perfectly comes in.
Well, I mean, you've talked a lot of economics. You've mentioned a lot of figures, and I think if I break it down to my understanding, all of that is to say that currently the economy isn't doing well at all.
That's the conclusion. Currently, things are not as we would have wished they were. I mean, and it is reflected even in the pockets of people. I mean, when you go to the fuel stations, the price you pay for your fuel at the fuel stations speaks to the nature of the economy. When you go to the markets, the things you buy in the markets, the prices are skyrocketing, and that speaks to the level of inflation that we are experiencing, the volatility of the exchange rate that is affecting prices, especially that a lot of things we consume in this country are imported. So yes, if you want to put it in layman terms, things are not working well. Yes.
Well, so like you said, the current situation probably calls for some thinking outside the box and doing things differently from the way they've always been done. When you also said that the 24-hour economy probably is the most popular and most topical policy that's been going around. Listening to it and hearing what is said about the 24-hour economy, what do you think are the economics that are underlining such a policy? What do you think is the problem? Because the problem that the policy is trying to cure, was it prescribed to do?
So I mean, I think that the fundamental are well known. Okay, the basic problems that this economy is engulfed with are well known, right? So the number one thing is unemployment. I mean, again, that's another indicator that has gone from bad to worse, if you like. I think currently our unemployment rate is hovering above 11%. So generally speaking, many more people who are leaving universities, who are leaving schools, are unable to get employment, are unable to get the required or the desired jobs. And of course, if you read the Ghana Living Standard Survey, especially Survey 7, it talks about the fact that the unemployment within the youth is on the increase, and some researchers would even say, for example, that many more of the people who are leaving the universities without jobs are people who are studying courses like business administration. So unemployment definitely is a problem that this country faces. And of course, the beyond the unemployment, like the things are already enumerated, you would speak to the fact that cost of doing business again is very high in this country, and this has been corroborated by many researches that have been done in terms of the cost of doing business in this country. So these are key things that this policy, as far as I'm concerned, seeks to solve. I mean, one, the problem of unemployment. Two, we are looking at the business environment itself, creating the enabling environment for businesses to thrive, and thereby reducing the cost of doing business in this country. That ultimately, would feed into the bigger picture at the end of the day in terms of how this economy is turned around. So yes, if you ask what are the things that the 24-hour economy seeks to solve, one, the main problem of unemployment, especially among the youth, and two, I mean, the ease of doing business and creating the enabling environment for businesses to generally thrive.
Well, the two major issues you've talked about, these, for anybody who's been following the politics of Ghana, would know that these are not, they probably have become much more relevant in the current circumstances, but they are not new. The Ghanaian economy, we were talking about unemployment for a long time, and for a long while, Ghana have been struggling with, the economy and creating an atmosphere that is easy for it to do business and actually be competitive in the sub-region and in Africa as well. So these are not new. Why do you think? And like you said, this is very important. So why do you think that no previous government have probably paid that much attention to this over the time, and probably have it's only taken us this long for us to come to a realization that we need to be probably much more aggressive and go at it in this particular manner.
Yes, so you are right in terms of the prognosis, in terms of the preamble. These are not problems that are new to us, and that actually is a common phenomenon. As a matter of fact, the problems that this country faces are not new problems. They have never been new problems. It's always been the same old problems that government after government has sought to solve. The only difference in this case is that these problems have become pronounced. They have become exacerbated, one, by the effects of COVID-19, and of course, as we always say, the Russia-Ukraine war, and also by the kind of economic policy that we have run as a country in the last couple of years. I mean, if you take, for example, the levels of borrowing that we have done in the last 7 years, it definitely has very little to do with Russia-Ukraine war. Okay, but all these problems, or the two main problems that this policy seeks to solve, like you mentioned, it is only that because of the nature, the acute nature of these problems now, you will need something outside of the box. They always say that difficult problems always call for difficult solutions. Do you understand? So we will need to now not do the ordinary things that we have done over the years. Otherwise, we will not be able to solve these problems. But as for the problems themselves, I mean, you are right, they have existed all this while. It is just that in quite recent times, these problems have become much more exacerbated. They become much more pronounced, partly because of the twin problems of COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine war, and also mainly because of how this economy has been run in the last couple of years.
Good. So let's now start to now get into the meat of the policy itself. We would take a broader look at it, probably take a short break, and then when we come back from the break, we would get into it into detail. So I mean, the talk, or what is what goes around, is that 24-hour economy, which presupposes to the layman that people work for 24 hours. What is your understanding of what they mean when they say 24-hour economy? Does it mean that those who are doing 8-hour jobs now, they now have to work for 24 hours? Does it mean that what does it mean? What's it about? What's the thinking behind it?
Right. So traditionally, our working system, or our traditional work system, is an 8-hour system, right? Generally, you are expected to be at work in most cases by 8 a.m. here in Ghana, and by 5 p.m. you are packing your bags to go home. Okay, that has been the traditional system that we have worked with. So anybody who says that I'm going to work, ordinarily or otherwise, unless otherwise stated or explained, you would not be wrong to think that the person is going to work at 8 and will be closing at 5. Of course, within that period, you have a 1-hour break. That traditionally is the work system that we've had in this economy, right, over the years. Now, what the 24-hour economy seeks to do is to change that narrative, is to change the way this works. It is to say that instead of working for only 8 hours, we can actually do a 3-shift 8-hour system. That is 24 hours, right? So that the day 24/7, people are able to work while others are going home. Some are coming to work, and while they are also going home, a third more group is coming to work. And so there's a 3-shift system for every 8 hours, right? And that it is supposed to be a 24/7 policy, such that across the 24 hours, people are actively engaged. People are actively working to change the economy. So basically, that is the difference between what we are used to and what the 24-hour economy seeks to submit. So that across the whole day, people are able to get work to do. What it means, I don't know whether I'm running ahead of the questions, but what it will mean is that if you only 10 people were working for 8 hours, it means that you probably need another set of 10 people in 2 different cohorts to be able to do the other 2 shifts. And so in this case, you probably ordinarily, that's a layman's explanation, you will need 30 more people to do the same job that 8 people were doing for only 8 hours.
Okay. Let me ask you this last question before we go for that break. So so we now have instead of having 8 hours, you have 8 hours in 3 sessions. That's almost like a country that never sleeps.
That's a country that never sleeps, exactly.
Yeah,
and again, this is something that has been practiced in some cities across the world. Of course, when I used to live and work in Australia as a student, I mean, this was done by the state of New South Wales, that's Sydney. I mean, the city of Sydney runs a 24-hour economy, and every time people are going to work, even in Western Australia, where I schooled in Perth, I mean, a lot more companies were running a 24-hour shift. Even as they will say in Ghana here, there are some companies that actually run 24 hours by the nature of their work. But this is not a deliberate policy as the 24-hour economy seeks to do. This is because of the exigencies of their work. That is how come they are probably running 24 hours. Right.
Yeah, but I mean, this presupposes that probably it might not be suitable for every kind, all jobs.
Exactly. And so I'm sure that with the time we'll get into some of the sectors where this policy would much more suit the nature of their work. You know, it will not definitely be for all sectors of the economy. That's right.
Very good. Very well. Take a sip of water. Let's take a break. We take some messages from our viewers and our listeners, and then we get back to you. So we would like to, if you just tune in and you are listening, this is MyView Show on Today Ghana News TV, where every Monday evening we bring you a very topical socio-political topic that comes up for discussion, where we delve into the issues and we bring you experts in those areas to discuss and to enlighten us and educate us on the topic for discussion. Today, we are trying to assess the NDC's 24-hour economy from the perspective of an economist. And our guest for today is Mr. Eugene Bawele, who is an economist, have worked extensively with the World Bank and other companies internationally. Currently, he is the head of SME banking at Omni Basic and also a lecturer at Academic City College in Ghana. And he's also currently doing a PhD at the University of Cape Town in South Africa. So we'd like to say a very warm, very good thank you to our listeners who are joining us from Sakina Information Center in Tatali in Northern Ghana. Also, thank you to our listeners on High FM 3.7 in Achuhima in the Eastern region. And a very warm thank you to our listeners on the King's Radio in Accra, Ghana, and to all our viewers and listeners on all social media platforms. Thank you very much for always joining us every evening to discuss the matters. So we take some messages from our viewers and listeners who have joined us today. Ni Odati Lamte, you say, ready for the discussion. Big ups, Ghana News TV. Thank you very much, Ni Odati Lamte, for doing the watching. Odoe Tema, you say you are watching live inside Presi Indomie Joint, Ashaiman, Lebanon. Okay, thank you very much for doing the watching. Frima Oye, you say good evening. You are watching from Macedonia. Who thank you very much, Frima Oye, for always doing the watching. Ni Odati Lamte, you are back again. You say good evening, and then I think that was the first message. Which other messages do we have? We take a few more messages from our viewers. Cashman Edu, you say you are watching live from France. Thank you very much, Cashman Edu Aji, for doing the watching in France. We are grateful that you're able to join us. France TV, Say Ghana is hot. 24 hours economy is the game changer. You are watching on YouTube from Aflao. Thank you very much, Fans TV, for doing the watching as always. Nyaframa TV, you say you are sending us greetings from Rara in Oti region. You are saying thanks for the collaboration. We are grateful that you are able to join us and also to broadcast the feed to others as well. Ni Odate Lamte, you are back. You say it's obvious a country sinking in the abyss of debt and ineptitude and total poverty needs a rigorous policy like the 24-hour economy to get us back on track. Thanks, Eugene, for your time to explain this to our people. Change is okay. Change is coming, and we all have to embrace the 24-hour economy. The game changer and the only enemies of the state will reject this. Thank you very much, Ni Odate Lamti, for your message. Kweku Ivo, good evening for joining. You say you are watching us from Suhum in the Eastern region. Albert, don't worry. We can also understand the economic language. Okay, your guest is very sharp and knowledgeable. Thank you very much, Kweku Ivo. I don't understand the economic language, so pardon me. Maybe it's Boateng. You say you are watching us from Lisbon, Portugal. Please ask him. Looking at how Akufo-Addo and his cronies have looted the country, where will the NDC get money to implement this innovative policy? Well, maybe it's Boateng. He's not really here to represent the NDC, but let's see. Maybe he has some ideas that he can help the NDC with. Asempa Buachi, you see you are watching and listening from actually my good job. Thank you very much, Asempa Buachi, for always doing the watching and the listening as usual. Frimpom Bafi, you say good evening. You are watching from Akuse near Somenya. Thank you very much for doing the watching, Frimpom. Thank you. Lady Mal _2, you say good evening, and you are watching from St. Petersburg in Russia. Thank you very much for doing the watching, and good evening to you. Sikapa family, you say you are watching from Jumapo near Kof Radio. A nice program. Thank you very much, Sikapa family, for doing the watching. Kweku Nsia, you say very educative program. Greetings from Anglo Town in Kof Radio. Thank you very much, Kwesi, for always tuning to the show every Monday evening to listen to the show and to be educated on what our guests have. Would that be all? If not, if that's all, we return to Mr. Bawale for the second part of the show. So let's welcome Mr. Bawale back. And then, yes, thank you very much for joining us back. Okay, before we went on a break, we agreed that good as it may be, it may not be able to flourish everywhere, and that maybe some sectors are going to benefit more from it than others. Which are the sectors that you think are the sectors that would most likely would lend themselves to this such a policy if implemented well?
Yeah, so thank you so much, and I want to also say thank you to all those who are watching us and sending in their comments. I think that it is comments like this that would help enrich the program, so we are grateful. Yeah, so top of my head, economic policy in this country generally affects two sectors. It affects the public sector and then the private sector. It does not matter the nature of the policy, but there's always some effect on either of these two or on both. And it is the same for the 24-hour economy. It is definitely going to affect both the private sector and the public sector. Again, I mentioned that the way the 24-hour economy ran, it would not, it was not going to be possible that every sector of the economy would get involved. So if you take the public sector, for example, key places like the ports and the harbors is one of the places that the 24-hour economy can affect. Now, you realize that there are times that there's a lot of backlog at our ports and our harbors. simply because we only run an 8-hour economy in these areas. So that from 8 to 5, if you are unable to clear your goods, it will mean that you have to stay on till the following day. And there are times that ships can dock at the terminal port, for example, for a number of days, because it is not their turn to offload their goods and get out of this country. And there are even times that, demurrage will catch some of these ships at the port. And so definitely one of the areas where the 24-hour economy would work or can work effectively will be at the ports, where it runs 24/7, such that there's no break in the activity at the port, whether it is at 2 a.m., whether it's at 5 a.m., whether it's at 2 p.m., whether it's at 8 a.m., you are able to clear your goods. While one group of customs officers are closing for their shift, another group is coming on board, such that you are able to clear your goods. Again, all these agents that we have who work from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Can either increase their number of hours, or we'll have another group of agents who are able to clear goods while others are taking their 8-hour shift break. So the ports is one area. If you look at other public places like the DVLA, where especially at the beginning of the year, until quite recently, that you don't really see a lot of new cars in the system. But generally, there are some of the DVLA offices, that the queues can become very frustrating and become very hectic. And such queuing system creates the opportunity for red tape. It creates the opportunity for corruption. And of course, people would not like to join the long queues. Of course, they have to look for the shortcuts, and that creates that avenue, the enabling environment for corruption to thrive. So places like the DVLA can work 24/7, where when you apply for your driver's license, for example, it does not take you 3 months before you can get your driver's license, because people are working 24 hours, such that when you apply for your driver's license, whether it is a renewal or a brand new driver's license, you should be able to get it in a day or two, or even in a week's time, such that the 24-hour economy is actively operating. Beyond the DVLA, beyond the ports and harbours, one other place I really think of, or that comes to mind, is the passport office. I mean, many people will tell you that when they go to the passport office to apply for a new passport, it takes them months before they get it, unless you are paying for expedited service, which in itself can take even a month or two, for your passport to be delivered to you. I recently, took my daughter through the process to get a passport, and it took us a minimum of 6 months, 6 weeks. And this was even when we had paid all the necessary monies that we have to pay to get an expedited passport delivered or issued to us. So a place like the passport offices across the country, or in regions where there seems to be so much pressure, like Greater Accra, like Kumasi, Takoradi, Cape Coast, these are offices that can work 24 hours, that can work some shift system, such that whatever backlog we have and the speed with which these services are delivered is increased. The list goes on, and the passport office, customs, DVLA, and all that. If you take the private sector, for example, it cuts across almost every facet of the private sector. So we can say, for example, the agro-processing. I mean, people who have factories that do some agro-processing, because of maybe you have the capacity to produce 30 metric tons a day, but you are only working 8 hours, and because you are working only 8 hours, you are probably producing below capacity. You are doing maybe 10 metric tons or 6 metric tons a day, simply because you are producing just 8 hours. Now, I believe that places like the agro-processing, for example, once they embrace the 24-hour economy, don't forget that it comes with its own advantages as well. Maybe we will delve into that, how the operationalization of the policy. But things like that, you can go to the commerce and manufacturing sector, like, where the likes of the cement producing factories are there, the likes of Nestle, Milo, those ones. That's what we call the commerce and manufacturing. These are companies, these are institutions, for example, that have the capacity to work 24 hours. And especially in places like commerce, you would always have a group of young people who are coming in the mornings. I use the motorway, for example, every morning, and I see the myriad of young people in the road into one factory or the other, just to do their handy jobs and get out of the place in about 5 p.m. And so these are companies when they embrace the 24-hour economy, will be able to increase, one, the number of people who are working there, and two, productivity itself would increase to solve the problems that we have in this country. So commerce, manufacturing, you can look at agro-processing, even financial institutions like the banks. Of course, you will not expect a banking hall to be open 24 hours, but there are some services that, irrespective of the time, a bank or a financial institution, for example, should have dedicated people throughout the period who should be able to solve those problems. You can talk about the retail centers like the markets, our marketplaces, the shops. These are places that can work 24/7. There are times, those days were much more younger than this. You can roam around 12, 1, you are coming back. You are desperately in need of something from a supermarket, and everywhere the supermarkets are closed. So retail shops, for example, can work 24/7. Construction companies. You live in Germany, and you can tell that most of the construction companies actually work in the night, especially when people are asleep. There used to be a joke in 2016. Of course, I wasn't here in 2016. But, reading on the social media, you could tell that people used to say that you sleep and you wake up and the road in your house, along your house has been constructed or has been tarred. Or you go to work and come, by the time you are coming your house, the road around your house is tarred. So construction companies can actually work 24 hours, the whole day. For example, you take the dualization of the Accra-Kumasi road that is currently ongoing. Beyond working during the daytime, these contractors can be given the opportunity to work throughout the night. And that will mean a different set of people working across the various shift systems. And so construction, retail shops, financial institutions, you can look at commerce and manufacturing, you can look at agro-processing, even sanitation and waste management. You don't want to wake up seeing Ebola taking your things in the morning. Maybe even in the night, they can, while others are taking during the daytime, others are working during the night. So there are a lot of sectors, within both the public sector and then the private sector that this policy can apply to.
Now, here's the catch. You people who, you the economists, you always talk about cost of production, right? So right. So you are producing, but there's cost attached to it. So with all of these things you are talking about, that means that for the private sector, for instance, maybe their cost of production gets to increase. Okay. For the government sector, for instance, if they are employing more people, that means cost of the wage bill would increase, and all of that. Do you think that probably the cost of implementing this would be enough to offset or to make it actually beneficial to when implemented?
That's a good question. So you are right in terms of the analysis that you have done. If I'm a manufacturing company, for example, and I'm only working from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., the cost of manufacturing between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. would definitely not be the same if I continue the manufacturing after 5 p.m. till, say, the next morning. So that is very correct. So that analysis is correct. And so why would I continue to produce 24 hours if it is only going to increase my cost, right? That's a very valid question. Now, my understanding of the 24-hour, there's going to be some level of support and incentives that will be given to almost all of these companies that would operationalize the 24-hour economy. For example, I have heard the running mate of the NDC, for example, explain that there will be tax incentives for companies that would embrace the 24-hour economy. There will be cheaper and reliable power to these companies. And that there's some form of metering system that can change the way your meter reads during the daytime and how it reads during the night. This is something that is already happening. And so cheaper, reliable power in terms of those who embrace the 24-hour economy will definitely come to be, so that how much power you are consuming per hour during the daytime will not be the same that you are consuming after 5 p.m. till the following morning. So cheaper, reliable power supply. There's there's what the NDC flag bearer has also explained, has been some form of financial support from institutions such as the Ghana Exim Bank. I mean, you probably would have realized that even without a 24-hour economy, the Exim Bank has been supporting institutions or private business grow. This is going to be a scale up on, especially for companies that embrace the 24-hour economy. And so you look at the fact that these are all incentives that are coming on board once you accept to run the 24-hour economy. Even without all these things, again, my understanding also is that even in terms of security, because that is a key concern, that people who will be traveling in the night, who will be opening their companies in the night to work. I mean, again, there's going to be an uptake in terms of the police numbers who will be assigned purposely or specifically to these institutions who are undertaking the 24-hour economy. So I think that in terms of implementation and the throughput of the policy itself, there has been some well thought through incentives that anyone who decides to welcome the 24-hour economy would enjoy.
Yeah. So you touch on a few of them, but I would like us to the potential bottlenecks that probably bottlenecks that, if not addressed, can be things that can obstruct such a policy. If you were probably consulting for the NDC or giving them any which are the areas that you would want to draw their attention to, areas you think they should take note of to ensure that the implementation, because in Ghana, the problem of Ghana is not always policies, but it's always about the implementation of it. That is where Ghana struggles the most. So what are some of the areas that you would want them to keep an eye on to ensure that the implementation is as smooth as possible, so that the benefits, as you have talked about, can be reaped at the end of the day once implemented?
Yeah, so you are right. I mean, there's no policy that does not come with some bottlenecks in terms of implementation. Every policy, no matter how well thought through it is, once you begin the implementation stages, always comes with its own problems. I mean, you can talk about the free senior high school policy, for example. It's a good one, but its implementation has been fraught with a lot of challenges. Somehow, unfortunately, we are not willing to discuss those challenges. You can talk about even the one district, one factory, which for me would probably have revolutionized this country in terms of our dependence on imported. That again has been fraught with some amount of challenges, and we have not fully realized the benefits of such a good policy. So, I mean, just to mention a few, every policy definitely comes with its own forms of challenges when it comes to implementation. And I do not think for a second that the 24-hour economy policy would be one that will be insulated from such difficulties. They will definitely come. So for example, one, you have to look at the fact that people would definitely incur cost. That goes without saying, that anybody who intends to implement the 24-hour economy would incur some amount of extra cost, apart from the ordinary or the normal cost that they were incurring. How do you help them? Or how do you subsidize such cost to be able to tell them to proceed and continue to implement the 24-hour economy? That is left to the government or to the one who is suggesting the policy. People are going to probably face a problem of demand. Exactly, because if I were producing 30 metric tons of maize flour, for example, and because of the 24-hour economy, I'm now producing 60 metric tons, is there a market for me? That's a potential challenge. I mean, we have to determine, again, we are looking at if for example, if I'm a local rice processing factory, for example, and I'm producing 10 metric tons a day, and because of the 24-hour economy, I've scaled up from 10 metric tons to say 30. Is there a market that would meet the supply that I'm already churning out? Okay, so for the government to decide that when we start the 24-hour economy, do we continue to import rice, for example, to the tunes that we are already doing, because the rice production in this country is going to increase by this amount? So definitely there will be some challenges, but I believe that it is only when you start the implementation that the challenges, the real challenges, these are potential challenges, but it is only when you start the implementation that you are confronted with the reality. Then you begin to look at the factors that, or the solutions that you are preferring to them. But obviously speaking, these are some of the key challenges that would definitely come up, with the implementation of this policy. But of course, the government, for example, should be able to create the demand for increased supply of rice, for example, and that the government can do by reducing the amount of rice that we import. Again, when the government does that, it goes along. If you are reducing the amount of rice that you are importing, for example, it has a way of impacting your currency, and that affects your exchange rate. Today, as we speak, the exchange rate is out of hand. If the government is able, for example, to reduce the amount of rice that we import because of the 24-hour economy, it is going to impact the local producers of rice, because now the demand for local rice will increase. They are able to get more money from the increased sales that or purchases that people are making, and so that has a way of affecting the economy from all angles. Okay, but until you probably start a policy, these will just be problems that you are envisaging on paper. But once you begin to implement, then they come on board and you are able to address them as you go on.
Well, yeah, address them as you go on. But even before you do that, I see something that is very, glaring to me right now. Something that can be a potential problem. As we sit today, Ghanaians are grappling with power supply. And as you know, it does not matter which part of the economy you operate, as long as you do not have a reliable, available, and affordable power supply, you are unable to be as productive as possible.
Yeah.
Would it be necessary that probably before this policy is implemented, things like that are probably sorted out before we start throwing money at this and probably dashing out some support, mostly probably to party people who probably would not pay.
Again, yeah, you're right. So actually, these are two things that probably escaped me in my answer. So key one would be whether this is implemented looking at a bigger picture for the entire economy, or we are going to do it as the usual things that we do, where party considerations or the political gains is what concerns us in terms of the implementation than what the economy itself stands to gain. So yes, potential challenges even include, the kind of or the industries or the companies that we are targeting in terms of the implementation. Are they just going to be only, some affiliated parties, companies to some political parties, or we are going to roll out a policy that would embrace every company that wants to undertake or take part in the 24-hour economy? Again, on the stability in terms of power, unfortunately, somewhere in 2022, I had written on Facebook that in 2024 there will be doomsday, and somehow people didn't see it. But the honest truth is that I actually wrote the first part of this statement in 2019, that there will be doomsday in 2024. And the reason was that, part of my background is energy economics. The reason is that I only looked at the consumption, the trend of consumption of power in this country. And I looked at whether, as at the time, we were doing anything to increase the capacity. And the answer was no. And it's not magic to tell that by the time you get to this period, your consumption or your demand would have outstripped your supply. Unfortunately, as we speak today, by mid-2025, if nothing is done as we speak today, by mid-2025, the load shedding will be a generational problem. The one we have now is a money problem, which I believe the government has largely solved, but not completely solved. But admittedly, the situation has improved in the last couple of days in many parts of Accra. But by 2025, mid-2025, there will be a generation gap. And that is something that cannot be solved with money immediately. Because to build a power plant in this country, you need a minimum of 3 years. My understanding is that the government is already working with one of the IPPs, the independent power producers, to bring in some generators or some old engines, before the end of the year. So that may solve the problem. But as I say, as we speak today, the 27th of May, 2024, if nothing is done by mid-2025, there will be doomsday in this country. And that may work against our economy. Yeah, that's unfortunately the truth.
Well, you did make a prediction 2019 that came to pass.
Right.
Maybe this will come to pass, but I give you the chance to also make a prediction that probably will come to pass. That would be good. Just as we round up, probably last question for you. If we get this 24-hour economy right, if we are able to implement it as it's being proffered to us, do you think that this can have a positive effect on the economy of Ghana?
It definitely will do. I mean, I think that if you have followed the 24-hour economy discussion, take out the partisan positions that people have taken, and you even look at people who are not politicians. I mean, everyone agrees that the 24-hour economy is a good policy. I mean, I was just going through the internet, for example, and if you permit me, let me just go through a few of the people who have, spoken highly of the 24-hour economy. So you take the Guta president, for example, Dr. Joseph Obin, and he says that he endorses the 24-hour economy policy. That is Guta. That's the Ghana Union of Trade. Is it Ghana Union of Traders Association? They endorse the 24-hour economy. Beyond that, if you take the IEA, that's the Institute of Economic Affairs, they believe that the 24-hour economy is up for a country with a very high unemployment like that of Ghana. The Federation of Labor is also one agency that supports the 24-hour economy. And the mother union of all unions in this country, the TUC, actually supports the 24-hour economy. Again, if you take out the politicians who obviously will be making partisan remarks as far as this is concerned, every other person who finds themselves within this space that we have discussed, whether it is the Commerce or whether it is the Ghana Employees Association, whether it is the TUC, that is the Employees Association, everyone believes that the 24-hour economy is one that can change the fortunes of this economy. For me, that is not in doubt. The only problem, again, is that we have to make sure that we implement it very well. And that has always been the problem of this country, implementation. But without doubt, the 24-hour economy is a game changer.
Well, a game changer it is. And in the meantime, we would be hoping and praying that if those who are proffering or this policy, when given the chance, they would implement it in a manner that it brings the reward that has been promised. And talking about reward and promise, we would like to say a very big thank you to our guest for today, Mr. Eugene Bawele, for taking time out to join us for a little over an hour. So, I mean, if he was billing us, I don't know how much you would have billed us. But don't send the bill to me. You can send to my producer.
Ghana is hard, so I'll send you guys something. No confuse. Send some euros.
So we are very grateful to Mr. Eugene Bawele for joining us for today's show and for doing his best to explain in plain language to us his understanding of what the 24-hour economy is, what its prospects are, what the potential bottlenecks are, and how we can roll it out to be able to deliver the benefits that have been promised under the proposed policy, should the NDC win and govern. So Mr. Bawale is an economist. He works right now at Omni Basic as the head of SME banking. He also works as a lecturer at Academic City, and we are grateful to him for joining. Mr. Licious Bongbe, he says you are doing a good job, Mr. Host, and your resource person is equally knowledgeable. Keep it up. Thank you very much, Mr. Bao, for the comment. Ose Superior, you say you are enjoying the program very well, very educative. Thanks. And you are watching from Barcelona in Spain. Contenana, good evening to you. You say, brother, God bless you for this education. You are watching us on YouTube from Warsaw in Poland. Thank you very much, Contenana, for always joining. Oh, yeah, boy, Tisela. Good evening to you. You say, wow, I'm late today, but still greetings from Nkwanta in Oti region. I am the popular tea seller in Oti Lorry Station, in Nkwanta Lorry Station. Your program is designed to help educate us, and we are enjoying it. You are also live on Adelema Community Information Center in Tutu Pene and KJB. Thank you very much, Yawboy, for always joining us every Monday evening. So we say a very big thank you to all our listeners on Adelema Information Center. We also say a very warm welcome, a very big thank you to our guest who joined us on Sakina Information Center in Tatali in Northern Ghana. Also, a very big thank you to our listeners on High FM 93.7 in Achunyima in the Eastern region, and also a big thank you to our listeners on the King's Radio in Accra, and also all our listeners and viewers who joined us on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter, and on LinkedIn, and whichever platform that you are joining us from. We are grateful to you for your time, and we hope that we have been able to help you today get some education on the 24-hour economy. This time, not from a politician, not even from a man of God, but from an economist. And we are grateful to our guest as well. So until next week, when we come your way again with another insightful program, we say, stay blessed. God bless you, and God bless our motherland, Ghana. Stay blessed. Good evening.
The country where I come from, the truth is irony. Just like animal farm, justice mean inequity. So who go say the truth? Who go say the truth?